All right, mates, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody is doing well. Today, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin metrics for active addresses on the blockchain this morning, so you can get an idea of what's happening now after yesterday with the rise of Bitcoin above 17,000, currently around 17,300 or so. Was its top yesterday during the push. But we're going to take a look at, and what you have in front right here is the Bitcoin addresses with at least one Bitcoin. So at least roughly a Bitcoin valued at $17,000 or more on January 9th. That was yesterday, okay? The data. So it's listing the price at $17,195. Bitcoin currently has on the block 981,187 addresses. Okay, so you can see here that has been increasing since June 15th of 2021. So over a year and a half, the number of Bitcoin addresses with at least one Bitcoin, you can tell that's the lowest level. Okay, really in the last 2 years. So we've gone from 792,391 addresses on June 15th, 2021 with at least one Bitcoin to now over 981,000. So a 200,000 increase in a year and a half of people accumulating at least one Bitcoin. So that is pretty much a tremendous. You can look here at the price action of, obviously, Bitcoin. So we'll look at on December 17th, 2017, Bitcoin was trading at 19,326. Remember the bull market prior to this one, okay? Really, in reality, 710,000. Then it dropped, okay, to 3,237. And on December 15th, 2018, a year later, there were 700,000 addresses. So from that low of 3,237 to now trading at 17,195, 281,000 more addresses accumulated greater than one Bitcoin. So that is like an interesting thing to look at when you look at one Bitcoin. Now, what we can do is we want to take a look at addresses with a balance of greater than 10 Bitcoin. Okay? So now we're going to get into whales, okay? More or less whales, sharks, okay? One Bitcoin, depends on who you are. A lot of people consider that if you own one or less, you're a shrimp, okay? As opposed to a shark and then a whale. All right. So 10 Bitcoins, greater than 10 Bitcoins. What's it looking like, okay? So let's go back again to that number. March of 2020. This is right around pandemic hits. Okay? March, April 2020. Bitcoin halving. All right? Bitcoin's price, 5,033. 153,000 addresses had at least 10 Bitcoin. So about $50,000, $52,000 of Bitcoin, okay? Think about that. At least 10 Bitcoin, all right? Valued at about $55,000, okay? And that was March 12th. Then we topped out here twice, double top, at 63,000, we had 147. So we went from 153 to 147. We lost. Means people sold their Bitcoin, right? And then we got another top up here, 147. So between these two tops, we stayed roughly at the same number of active addresses holding at least 10 Bitcoin. And now from that point on, from November 15th of 2021, okay, all the way until January of 2023, the exception of a bump in April of last year, we have been in a decline, okay, in the Bitcoin price, right? So you can see that here. We were up top tier at 63,433, had 147,000 addresses. We are now at 16, we said 17,000. We're at 155,000 addresses. So people have been buying more Bitcoin is what I'm trying to let you guys in on the metric. Okay, it's all been all doom and gloom, right? That's what people are telling us. Bitcoin's going to crash. They were telling us at 32,000, Bitcoin was going to crash to 4 or 6. And then it got to 28, and then they kind of raised it to like 10 because it didn't fall fast enough. And then it got to 22, and then it got to 18, and then it was like 10 or 12 was the magic number all of a sudden. And then we didn't fall below 15,000 for really any, and then kind of like everyone was like, oh, because everyone wants to like be the guy or the gal who calls the bottom. Okay, pat yourself on the chest. Nobody cares. I don't really know what that really reality is all about, but that's what a lot of people like to do. I call the top or I call the bottom. So what? I mean, you should be trading all the way down and all the way up. So it shouldn't really matter when the bottom gets locked in. Okay? I mean, you would think yesterday in the trading frenzy yesterday that the bottom was in. That was the commentary from a lot of folks was the bottom was in, right? That we were in. Okay? That now we're going to, and then look what's happening today. A lot of selling off, a lot of that stuff happening in different projects and all that stuff. So right now we've got 155,000 account active addresses holding at least 10 Bitcoin, right? That is almost the highest level that has been since roughly August 22nd, 2019. Think about that. Now, a lot of that has to do with the fact that Bitcoin has come down a lot in price. Okay, remember that. In September 14th, 2019, Bitcoin was 10,348, and then it went all the way. We know what happened, right? Went all the way up to 63, and it's come down. So, I mean, you got to factor into that. People were buying up, dollar costing in. What were they doing? Didn't get a lot of these guys selling out completely, like the capitulation narratives that get told to us. Yes, Bitcoin is sold down. But how many of them were actually whale and shark addresses that were actually selling? Does not appear based on the metrics. You have to look then and go further and look and see of all of those active addresses that are holding at least 1 Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin, how long have they held it, right? A year or more, 5 years or more. I mean, that's another good indicator, okay? So we're going to look at 100 Bitcoin. So the active addresses that currently hold at least 100 Bitcoin. Look at that chart. It is flatlined, right? It's pretty much been flat. Think about this from September 22nd of 18, 16,000. We're about 400 or 500 less 7 years later. That tells you, okay? Again, 16,000 people in the entire world, okay? 16,000 people in the entire world currently own at least 100 Bitcoin based on the active addresses, okay? And so that is, indicative. Didn't much matter what the price of that Bitcoin was. It has stayed steady from September 26th, 2018 to January 9th, okay? Last one, going to look at really quickly is going to be, you guessed it, more than 1,000 Bitcoin. You can take this out, take this to the bank, 1,000 Counts active addresses with 1,000 Bitcoin. Most likely exchanges, most likely addresses associated with Binance and Qcoin and Bybit and all that. Usually you can extrapolate that out into the wallets and into the exchanges and addresses to kind of know the exchange addresses. But there you have it, mates. On January 9th, 2023, 2,044 addresses currently hold over 1,000 Bitcoin in the entire blockchain. 2,000 addresses. And so there you have it, mates. Those are your addresses with balances for Bitcoin as of January 9th, 2023. It's a great metric to keep track of, especially when you're trying to analyze all the noise you're hearing about Bitcoin. It's always good to check the on-chain metrics. It's always good daily, and also it's good to check the balances of active addresses and what they are doing. And always make sure that you also check the exchange flows for these major addresses. When these whales and sharks move money to exchanges, they are telling you that their intentionality is to sell. So you want to be ahead of that or with that, because you don't want to get caught like so many people have gotten caught in Bitcoin dumps over the last 2 to 3 years. All right, mates.